Guys, in today's video, we're talking about Kaldi. Um, it's a company that I've invested in before when it was valued at 8 million. It's now valued at 12, and the share price is £33. They've just launched their funding about a day ago. The target was 700,000, and they've raised 730,000 from 83 investors. So, what does the initial view, what does that tell me? People are investing a lot of money here in this company, that the investors that are investing believe in it. There was a large investment, I think, of 150,000, which is there. Um, so if you remove that, you kind of left with about 500k divided by 83. So people are investing thousands on average into this firm. Um, why is that? I'm not going to play the video because sometimes it doesn't record the audio very well. But essentially, um, what is Kaldi? Basically, you spend money, and consumers spend money at lots of these retail outlets, 150 major high street brands, right? And as you're spending money at Morrison's, IKEA, buying shoes at Adidas or Nike, going to Cafe Nero, going to Aldi using Uber, etc., um, you get a cashback of like 3 or 4% using Caldi, and that cashback is then reinvested in the stock market in funds. So so that's really interesting. You got like a general investment account, an ISA account, and a junior ISA, and it's invested with these big players like Fidelity and Vanguard, etc., HSBC, blah blah blah. So what that does is why that's really interesting for me is it's taking one industry, which is the cashback industry, which is pretty outdated and pretty cumbersome. So sometimes you have to go onto these websites and get these codes and blah blah blah, and it's just a bit of a hassle. Whereas from what I understand with Kaldi, you just you put your money onto your card, your Kaldi card, and then you spend money as normal. So you might put 500 quid a month on or whatever, and then you do your shopping and you do, whatever, and you get money back. So let's just say you're spending 1,000 a month, because you might do if you're eating out, and if you're spending money on shopping, you might spend 100, £200 a week on your shopping, Uber, and coffees and blah blah blah. If you're going on holidays as well, Amazon is included as well. Uber Eats is included, flights are included, etc. Furniture's included with Wayfair, etc., etc., etc. You might be spending 1,000. What does that mean? If you're getting 5% on 1,000, you're making £50 a month, and that's going direct into the stock market. That's £600 a year for somebody with relatively modest spend. £1,000 including food shopping is doable. And if you're a big spender and you're spending 2,000 a month, sorry, on these kinds of spend categories, then you might be saving over £1,000 a year in cashback. Let's use the smaller example at 5 to 600 a year. If you're investing in in equity markets like the US stock market, which has trebled since March 2020, you could see those savings go up pretty substantially. And because Kaldi works in a different way um, to like other fintechs like Moneybox or Plum or Chip, they ask you to invest the money. They do things like roundups where, if you're spending 4.90 at Starbucks, then they will round up 10p, and that will go into your savings account. Or they encourage you to do auto savings on a weekly basis. So you might save £25 a week or £50 a week or whatever it is. And that goes into your stock market savings, right? Your ISAs and your pension and your savings accounts and your LISAs and things like that, right? But this is different. Caldi's different. How's it different? You're not spending any money or you're not investing any money that you're not already spending on your everyday living costs. You know, if you're shopping at Aldi, if you're eating out at Pizza Express, if you're going to Starbucks occasionally for a coffee or Cafe Nero, if you're buying furniture at IKEA, if you're buying sh clothes at like New Look, or you're buying electronics at Curry's, or you're buying cheap items at B&M, or a bike at Halfords, you know, etc., etc., etc. You're buying presents for people at Waterstones or Amazon, you know. These are kind of expenses that you're going to have anyway, everyday expenses. But with Caldi, what's really interesting is you're getting some rewards by spending money at these places. So I think it's fabulous. The fact that they've got already 150 major brands, and maybe the average is 3 to 4%. So it might I was doing it at 5%, but maybe it's 3 or 4%. But no matter what, it is absolutely a fantastic idea. I love the way it looks at the moment. I love the UI, the user experience or user interaction, the UI UX. It looks fantastic. It's beautiful. People do value a good user experience. I don't care what anyone says. You know, the reason why Monzo and Revolut have done so well is because it's so quick and easy and user friendly. And fintechs, the ecosystem within the fintech environment has grown enormously. You know, you've got B2B players like Starling, you've got B2C players like Revolut and Monzo, savings tech with Moneybox and Chip. And this is like cashback tech, which I've not really seen before. I've seen the alternatives where you go on to these cashback websites, which are a bit pernickety and awful. Um, but uh, but I haven't seen something in an app form with a card. I just think it's going to absolutely fly. You can also set up child ISAs, junior ISAs, which I've just had a baby recently. She's now 16 months at the time of recording. She's 16 months tomorrow, actually. Um, and I think that's important. You can help other people in your family. So you can link an account for a partner or a sibling, um, which is great. And I just think it's going to do really well. You know, I've seen this before where companies raise quickly. So they've raised 700K in a day and they've got 24 days remaining. You know, this could easily raise millions and they haven't launched yet. You know, they're in alpha testing. I've signed up for the beta testing, which I hope to get soon. And, you know, they're a very new brand. If we look at we can go on Instagram and have a quick look at their Instagram, but it looks pretty cool. They've got 1,500 followers. They're already working with influencers, which is good. And I love everything about it. I love their socials. I love the idea. I love what I can see about the UX and UI. They've got characters already, which is what Moneybox has done really well at. I could see them having millions of users in the next couple of years. Um, they also do something quite interesting because they play against crypto. So they're sort of saying, um, look at this little animation here. 40% of people are investing in cryptos, but they don't realize that a lot of people lose money. Um, so, you know, what's really interesting is they're kind of playing against that narrative of crypto, which I think, and Forex, which a lot of people lose money at, to be honest. So I think this is like a really interesting narrative that people don't necessarily see much of, but I think it could accelerate. You imagine that fictitious example I mentioned of somebody spending 1,000 a month, maybe they're, I don't know, 33, and then a couple of years later, they've got, let's say, a couple of thousand they've actually invested into the stock market, into these funds, and suddenly that 2 to 3 thousand is now worth 5K, and they say to their younger brother or sister, you know, you should really start thinking about Kaldi because you're just saving just by spending. I really think that, um, yeah, I really think that this could go viral, could have a network effect of friends and family, and I think I really do think it's going to do well. Right now, I'm sort of in between work personally. I've already invested a significant amount into Kaldi myself, all cards on the table. It is the approach I take is I don't put a huge amount into one company. I think of things in percentages. So when it comes to Kaldi, um, I've put in about 4%, something like that, 3 to 4% of my overall startup investments are now in Kaldi, which is relatively high. It's in the top 10 of all holdings for me. Um, the companies that I've done well from are basically software as a service, apps, and fintech. Kind of other category of companies that I've invested in have gone bust, unfortunately. Even ones that I thought were fantastic, like Dizzy or Good Club, which worked on reusable packaging and healthy foods. They recently went bust. Meatless Farm went into administration. They're a large vegan burger brand, which I really like the food, and I think physical companies that have physical premises that have manufacturing, etc., can struggle, whereas a lot of software companies can absolutely fly. When you have a good idea, you have good UX, you get good funding in. Let's just reload this to see if anyone else has invested. It was 7:30 the last time we checked. No, nobody has at the time of filming. But I'm sure give this a few days. I wouldn't be surprised if it reaches over 1 million in cash raised. And the other factor is, so fintech is flying, valuations are going up. This is valued at 12 million. I invested at 8 million. Um, I really can't. I'd be surprised if this doesn't grow. There's 16,000 people on the wait list, I believe. I think it's something like that. Um, and I just see this being very big. They're in the UK at the moment, but I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't be surprised if this would go international pretty quickly as well. Because once you've got the technology, some of these brands are international. Airbnb, of course, Uber. So maybe Spotify, Amazon. So it might be quite useful for Kaldi to start thinking, a year from now, 2 years from now, what are the international brands here out of the 150? There might be 10, 20% that are international. Um, and then launching in those countries where they have international spenders, because the for a start, the UK spenders, the UK consumers and Caldi users are going to be traveling to places like United States, Spain, France, Portugal, Greece, whatever. And a lot of those countries do have Uber, Airbnb, Virgin, etc., 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 Amazon. So I think this could have international uh, ambition and international prospects. I think it's big enough just to be have a good valuation in the UK alone. If you think about Moneybox has gone to several hundreds of millions of pounds off of the user base of about 1.5 million. That's the number of people that are using Moneybox. And they've gone from, I think it was 200,000 to 1.5 million in about, don't quote me on this, but I think about 5 years, maybe, or 8 years. Um, so this is kind of the trajectory I expect from Kaldi. I think if it works, they can have hundreds of thousands of users in the next couple of years. And 5 years from now, if it has done well, I expect it to have over 1 million users and be worth over 100 million, probably within 5 years. So, I mean, I'm always pretty bullish. I was quite shocked and surprised by the fact Meatless Farm went bust. And a few other companies that I followed on this channel have gone under, even ones that have the best, ideas in the world. Um, so, you know, it's nothing is guaranteed in this world of angel investing. I've done a lot less of it in 2024 and 2023 compared to 2020. The bulk of my investing has been from 2020 to 2022, personally. But Kaldi, I invested in a year ago, I think it was, and I just had a strong feeling about it, and it's only getting stronger. They're getting VC funding, and they look at, they've got a clear understanding of where they want to spend the money, um, which is great, and they know what they're going to do in terms of the business model. They don't really have competition. Um, so I don't think there's going to be much competition there. I can't see a cashback company spending, millions on development um, to do this, because it does cost a lot of money to create apps. It's not it's not pennies, and I just think they've got first mover advantage in this market. And should they get to a couple of 100,000 users, then of course they'll be coming back to the market to raise more money, and it becomes a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy, to a certain extent. So it's very exciting. Um, I love it, I really do, and I really hope that they do well. I can't give advice on this channel, so I'm not going to try, but I am going to give my opinion, and say that I like it, and I think it's likely to do well in my opinion. But you have to spread risk with angel investing because it is risky, and you can lose money. I think you have to expect to lose money on some firms. So if you want to invest in 20 companies, it's fairly likely that 5 or 10 will go completely bust within 2 or 3 years. But then a few will do very well. For me, How About is a software company, an app for young people, and they've done very well. The valuation is more than doubled. They've gone from 200,000 users to, I think it's over 3 million now. They have, just in a couple of years. Moneybox in the fintech space, similar to Kaldi, probably targeting a similar, demographic. They've done very well as well. Their valuation has, I think, more than doubled as well recently. So it can, things can go well, and some of the firms that I've done, they're more than double, have tripled or quadrupled. But I've gone a little bit bigger on software as a service and fintech, and I've had more success in that space than failures. And the physical, the restaurants and the food companies and the green tech companies, they're it's harder, a lot in terms of the percentages of win rate. It's much harder with those. They're much more capital intensive, and R&D costs quite high. Acquiring customers can be a problem for food tech, restaurants, eco tech, green tech, whereas fintech, and general software as a service and apps, if they're free, they can grow pretty quickly, and these guys want to be free. I mean, they do have costs to them. They do charge, there will be an asset under management fee, maybe 0.5% or something, but that's standard anyway. So yeah, so I think it's great. They've got 16,000 on the waiting list. Um, so yeah, I think they're going to do very, very well. Let's just reload it, see if anyone. It's unlikely, but I mean we're a Friday and it's the middle of the day, to be honest. So um, no, nobody's reinvested, but you can always check back. If you want to invest in this company, the way to do it at the moment is via Crowdcube. The other thing to note, actually, I think this is really valuable. So if you have stuck around to this part of the video, well done. Um, how About has gone from 20,000 users. It was, yeah, I think it was 20,000, a small number of users, to over 3 million in the last few years. But they've only raised twice on Crowdcube, and now what are they doing? They're raising VC funds, Series A. How About have just raised 6 million for a Series A, and they might not come back to the crowd, or if they do, they might come back much, much later. And I'm not saying this to promote Kaldi. I'm just saying that it happens in the world of growth companies. They go to the crowd first, and they might not always come back. I've been lucky that Moneybox, they have come back to the market. But when you think about other fintechs, right? Revolut, Monzo, they go to the very large VCs and they raise funds that way. Or companies like Moneybox are going to be profitable. They might not need to raise more capital. So that's the rub, really. You're investing early. If you want to look at something like Kaldi, and this is the thing that I have to think about as well. I already invested in the first round, and it is risky at the start. It is. But there's the other, you can lose money. But the other side of the coin is that if one doesn't invest early, there might not be many opportunities. I personally think with Kaldi that they've already done one raise. This is their second raise, and I think there probably will be another one or two after this, but it is definitely not guaranteed. And of course, the valuation might have gone up. So you get most of the uptick when you invest early. Obviously, the risk is early as well. I think I only put a couple of £100 into How About the first round. I'm kicking myself now because I really should have put in more, but I put in a lot more in the second round for How About. So so with Caldi, I put in a bigger chunk in the first round. At least for me, a lot is a variable, and re it's a kind of a term that a lot to you might be different to me. For example, maybe your average investment ticket is £100, or maybe it's £10,000, or maybe it's £50,000. Everybody should have their own comfortable level that they feel comfortable at investing at, and I've got mine. And but anyway, the point is that I did put in some money into the first round, and now I'm thinking out loud. I would like to invest in the second round, but it is early, and particularly for me at the moment, I'm not doing. I start a new role in January. So I'm probably going to have to pass on this round, unfortunately, which is I'm really gutted about, to be honest, because I would want to put in a small four-figure sum into this if I could. Um, but yeah, I don't think I can at this particular time, which is a real shame. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. And remember to like and subscribe. I don't do videos. I do videos around other topics as well, like listed equities. But obviously, when I see there's a interesting startup, I will cover that. And fintech is something that I like to cover. Remember that knowledge is power, especially the right kind of knowledge, and progress is everything. And I'll see you guys in the next upcoming video. Take care.